It's Judge's fault. Judge's Jules even. And it's the judge here with Si. Hello, Si. How are you, mate?
But you said Judge's fools for a minute then. I wondered who you had in mind, mate. Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Good weekend, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Very good. Yeah, and it's
considering the week after the week that was. I thought it was good weekend racing this weekend.
Yeah,
and we've got a few for the old tracker here.
Get these in the tracker sharpish, I would suggest this week.
Yeah, definitely. And I've got the one straight off the press. I'm going to go straight into is at Chester in the 4:30 on Saturday. This one for me is one you must have in your tracker. I was very impressed with a horse called Evocative Spark. This horse finished 4th behind Call Me Ginger in the 5.5 furlong sprint. Well, if you go back onto this horse's form, this has been running over a mile. It changed stables from Ollie Sangster to Darrell Holland after changing from George Bowie to Ollie Sangster. So there's been obviously a few issues. It's been running over a mile, and this was a 5.5 furlong race. So obviously they're trying a new venture into sprinting. Missed the break, went right up the rail, and pretty much under a hand ride, stayed on very strongly into 4th. Was only beaten a length and a half at the line under pretty much a minimal ride. Get this horse back on the straight track, probably over 6, certainly even 7 with some of its form, certainly a stiff 6. This horse is a winner waiting to happen. It's now rated 75. I can't see them dropping it for that run, but it certainly won't go up. It's rated 75 now. This horse was winning a couple of years ago off a mark of 90. And I think they might have found a lease of life with this horse over the sprinting side. So for me, the first one in your tracker is Evocative Spark.
Yeah, I've been very impressed by Darrell Holland this year. I think he's really come on as a trainer. And you're right, this has had more clubs than Nick Faldo, hasn't it? This Evocative Spark. But if you watch that race, interestingly, Franny Norton was asked for comments after, and he said the gelding was denied a clear run repeatedly, turning into the home straight. So when he did get out, it shot, didn't it? And you see, this was against still only 4. This was against really experienced top-class sprinters, wasn't it? Hyperfocus, Call Me Ginger, Count Dorsey. This is strong form.
Roman Dragon's the one also I think you could put especially at Chester, the Chester specialist came second. And Call Me Ginger was below his mark that he won the Portland off. So, like you say, it's right, solid form.
I think this will
be throwing winners up, but this is the one also I think could win a couple of races off its current mark.
Yeah, he ain't going to be 40-1, but I think he might be a nice price next time.
Unfortunately not, no.
Yeah, but I'm fully with you on that, mate. Fully with you on that. Now, I've got 2 from the meeting at Sandown. And the first one really is a kind of angle bet because it's one of those horses where I think it's going to get forgotten here. And it's one of those put a line through. Now, the horse is Lord Protector, trained by the very informed Rafe Beckett. Something of a Sandown specialist, but it's also got decent form away from Sandown. Now, this was the 3 o'clock Class 2, the Virgin Bet handicap over 1.2 miles. Now, this was incredibly well backed and clearly was fancied very, very strongly. Went off 100-30 favourite in a really competitive big field handicap. Sadly, the horse lost a shoe and got struck into. Not seriously, and they're saying that the damage is kind of cosmetic rather than a serious injury. Struck into on its left hind leg. Now, I think we can completely put a line through this. And if you watch the race back, Ross O'Ryan realises all is not well and basically gives up, quite rightly, because he thinks the horse might be injured. So completely forget this run. So what do we know apart from the fact the horse got injured? We know that off this current mark, and he certainly isn't going to go up for Saturday, we know that the horse clearly was working well. We know that Beckett Yard clearly fancied it very strongly, and this was seriously well bet. So completely put a line through that. I think they'll come back here, or they'll maybe go to Ascot. And he's clearly in good heart. If it's just a cosmetic injury and it was a shoe coming off, that can be fixed. I suspect they'll give him a couple of weeks off and bring him back. But he's clearly in good heart. He's clearly off a good mark. And I'm afraid if you did your dough on Saturday, it's just one of them things that's racing. But it's amazing how many times these horses get involved in incidents like this and quickly get forgotten by punters, tipsters, whatever. And people look at the physical thing that happened. Oh, nowhere, flopped, blah, blah, blah. It didn't complete line through. They'll be going again in a couple of weeks. They obviously think the horse is well handicapped. It was obviously working well until what happened on Saturday. They're saying it's cosmetic injury. And I still think Lord Protector has got something to offer either back here or possibly at Ascot. Stiff track, and this horse really does finish with a rattle over 1.2 miles. So we've got to forgive him because it was more a freak incident, really. So I'm sticking with Lord Protector. Get him in your tracker. Hope he's going to be back in the next few weeks. And let's hope that some people have forgotten about him.
Yeah, he's got some good solid form before that, hasn't he? You know, he ties up with horses that all run well, you know, in the John Smith's Cup and races like that, hasn't he? He's a pretty solid yardstick, and like you say, one bad run. And the amount of times you see horses overbet just because of one good run and vice versa, you've got to forget, you won't ever back big price winners if you keep thinking just on the basis that horses run well last time. You've got to forgive horses bad runs. Obviously, exactly. It does get to a level when they've had 2 or 3. You think, well, I've got to give it a swerve now, and you've got to let them go. But yeah, I think that's a genuine excuse. Funny enough, I've got one from that race, and it's on a different line. It actually ran quite well. Ran a funny race. Sort of was up there early and then dropped away and then stayed on again. The also I've got from that race, a Certain Lad, trained by Jack Shannon. This horse now, I mean, that's the lowest rating it's been running off for a very long time. Run off a mark of 101. It stayed on very strongly and finished second to the resurgent Dual Identity, who was another well-handicapped horse on Saturday. He beat the rest of them in the end quite comfortably. He stayed on from the back. But this horse has been running in group races and not contested many handicaps. On his previous jaunt, he was sick to cumulonimbus. That's not easy for me to say at Yarmouth, and he stayed on well that day. But I think this horse is now down to a mark it can get very dangerous off. You know, this horse ran in the John Smith's Cup or the Ebor or whatever for a little while back. He's been running in group company. He's been running in, you know, RPRs well into the hundreds. He dropped down to a mark now of 101. And I think this horse is ready to strike. I don't know what you think, mate, but I do think Certain Lad is the lad to be on soon.
Yeah, he can be a very frustrating horse, Certain Lad. But you're right, he's getting to be a dangerously well-handicapped frustrating horse.
Yes.
And around that mark of 100 up to sort of 102, he's certainly capable of winning one of these big handicaps. Do you know, he could be a Cambridgeshire horse. He really could.
Enough, that's the race I was thinking of. A mile 1 would be probably perfect. A little bit of cut in the ground, not too much. Yeah. I'd be surprised. He's a sort of horse that go off 33s in a race like that, and you could easily see him hitting the frame, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And the thing about that race is it's 1 mile 1, but they go such a a gallop that you've got to stay 1 mile 2 to win it. Yeah. You know, you know, I've even seen some 1.5 mile horses run well in that race. He will be able to lay up. I think he's got the speed to lay up in a race like that in the first sort of 6. I'm sure that's on their agenda. I mean, you know,
I think that's the race. I agree with you because Dual Identity was unlucky in it last year, wasn't he?
I tell you what, let's see, Judge, whether we can get people a price. See what he is, because I'm sure that they're betting on the Cambridgeshire. Let's talk amongst yourselves. Let's see if we can get one.
I'm just to see if it's in the entries, but it's not in the entries side of things. So that'd been quicker.
Oh, hang on. Here we go. Let's bring up the Cambridgeshire betting. It's all right us saying these things, but if we can possibly get people.
Yeah, I'll be amazing. He's not in it. He's got a race. Yeah, I would definitely get him in the race.
He's the obvious. It's the obvious race for him. Let's have a look.
Yeah.
Well, I never. He's not. He doesn't appear to be in it.
Oh well, that was a lovely bit of But I don't know. I'm surprised about that because, like you, I thought that'd be an ideal race for him.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. So it's not been a complete waste of time mentioning that. Not the horse. I mean the race. Lord Protector, our old mate I've just mentioned. He's 33.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell you what. is a horse that I would put a few quid on because I think you can just completely forget. There's a horse called Lord Bertie that went into the first race at Chester with a huge reputation. And I'll lay you odds on that you'll never see him at Chester again. He's currently 25. He just, well, shocker. One of them horses that's got to Chester and thought, what the hell is this? And I know a lot of people were whatever, but that has got no bearing on a Cambridgeshire. It'd be worth 25 to 1 shots, and I know he is aimed at the race. So there's a couple of ideas.
If he won on Saturday, what price would he be then?
Well, I think he'd be 10 to 1 joint favourite, wouldn't he?
Absolutely.
So I will.
Like that was a knockout, definitely.
I will avail myself to a little bit of 25s with Paddy Power or
that's not bad, definitely. I wouldn't put you off that, mate.
Classy horse. So there you go. We mentioned the Cambridgeshire with a horse that's not in it, but we sort of twisted it to a relevant point by giving you 2. That's Well, wherever they go, the Shannons, I'm very surprised at that. Right, my second bet ran in what I think was an exceptional maiden fillies race at Sandown. It's the 4:10, and the usual sort of paddock pickers and whatever reported that these looked a seriously strong group of fillies. The race was won by the odds-on shot Classical Song. Now, Rafe Beckett with fillies, he's just, well, with any horse at the moment, they're going in left, right, and up the centre. But this thing was seriously impressive. Obviously, not going to give that as an eye catcher. You can work that out yourself. But I would imagine that group races await there. The second, Beautiful Love, Charlie Appleby, very, very highly regarded at home. But the horse I like is the third, which was Circe. CIRCE, trained by Richard Hannon. A bit of late money for this, clipped into 11s on the off, was as big as 14-16s 5 minutes before. And I saw on the exchanges that just that late little surge. So somebody thought this was going to run well, and it did run well. Sean Levy got a little bit stuck on the rail, even though it was in a small field. And it was only late on that he actually got out and got this really rolling, and he failed by a head to be second. I think if he'd had a clear run, I think he would have beaten Beautiful Love. He would not have beaten Classical Song, and I'm in no way suggesting that. But this very well-bred type by Kodiak, this was 7 furlongs. I think it's got the speed for 7. Probably could drop back to 6, and on the sire's side, it will get a mile next year. I think this is a useful horse. So Circe, I'd be very interested. Now, I've looked, no group race entries, but this is the sort of type that I suspect Hannon will either come back here to Sandown or maybe go again to Ascot or even Newbury for a late season maiden and then maybe put this away. I think this could be a useful 3-year-old next year. So I do think we will see this again this year, and they obviously see this as a long-term prospect. Now, he didn't knock the horse about, but just that late bit of money and the fact that they were described as an outstanding-looking group of fillies. We know the winner is seriously useful, or we suspect she is, so there's no shame in getting beat by that. Would have been second with a clear run, wasn't knocked about. I think this is a long-term prospect. And I think that it's one of these horses that's got a late-season maiden where it probably go off about 6-4, 7-4. And you can have a decent dig on this. So this is going in mine in capital letters. I think we'll see it in the next 2-3 weeks. Like I say, Newbury, even Donny's been known to send them up to straight flat tracks or even back here at Sandown. But Circe is a seriously useful late season 2-year-old. For the Hannon camp, that would be my second one, Judge.
Well done, Matt. To not look like it might be a nice race, actually. There's a few expensively bought 2-year-olds in that race, wasn't there? Yeah. So
Meehan's got a nicely bred one, and Haggis had a nicely bred one, and the front three knocked them out of the way. So I think the front three are useful.
You can see winners come out of that, couldn't you? Funny enough, I'm on a similar theme to you. Certainly, perhaps not necessarily the same sort of class, although you could argue it could be. I'm going for a 2-year-old as well. As an eye catcher, and this horse was well beaten on Saturday. It ran in the 2:10 at Chester, went off 5-4 favourite after being back from 2-1 in the morning. And the horse is called Infinity Blue, trained by Andrew Balding. This horse was well beaten 4th, but But everything that could go wrong at Chester did. It was drawn quite wide and ended up being 4 wide in a 7-horse race. I think it was 7 horse, 9-horse race. It was 4 wide all the way round over the 7 furlong trip. Couldn't have had a worse trip if it tried. And it was still bang near a furlong to go and then dropped away into full. He didn't knock it about, which I'm pleased to say. He's only a 2-year-old. Dropped into full. And the race was won by Politicos, who had previous Chester form. But it's run before, which really caught my eye, Infinity Blue. Hence why I thought it might well win on Saturday. But I wasn't going to be backing it at 5 to 4. It finished third at Newmarket to King's Gamble. And in fourth that day was a Gin Crack winner, Lake Forest. And King's Gamble came third in the Gin Crack. So I've made this race a race to follow. And Zane Blue finished second in that. Was an unlucky second in the York Convivial as well at the York meeting. So that piece of form at Newmarket is an exceptional piece of maiden form for the season. And this horse, like I say, split those horses, finished third. On RPRs, its highest achievement was a racing post rating of 76. And I can see the handicapper giving it a mark in the low 70s here. Certainly nothing worse than the mid 70s. And this horse could easily win a nursery, but I'll be surprised they don't win a maiden. But if it was to go down the nursery route, it'd be well handicapped for me. And so for me, my final one in your tracker is Infinity Blue.
Yeah, I think it was a nice little race, this. I had a bet in this race. I backed a horse called Foreign Exchange, who's an absolute screwball for Carl Burt. That was working well, but that just did not settle at all, and I would be very wary of that one. Yeah, you one of those races at Chester where you just couldn't get in, could you?
No.
And so you've run so much further than the 3 in front of you, and it's just got knackered late on. But yeah, I like that form before that. And again, we say it till we're blue in the face here, but you have to forgive horses, not necessarily bad runs, but races where it doesn't go right for them. And Chester, lots of seriously good horses have got beat at Chester. In group, you look at that first meeting of the year where they have the Group 1s. I've seen some absolute monsters get turned over there by getting stuck out wide or not leading off the wrong foot, going around the bend, not handling it. Lord Bertie in the first, they said on Saturday, just mentioned about betting him from for the Cambridgeshire at 25s. When it went back to the studio, they said, "Oh, his bubble's been burst." Well, maybe yes, but maybe no. Maybe Chester, maybe his bubble at Chester's been burst. Because if you think about it, he came in. Sorry, keep going back to that race, but it's an example of Chester. He came into that race a short price favourite and a strong handicap with 3 easy wins behind it. Now they can't all be duff form, just because he got beat at Chester. So Infinity Blue, straight track. Maybe bring him up north again, a Haydock maybe for a late. Like you said, I think they probably would take in a decent nursery with him.
Yeah,
which could see that quite easily, or even at the air meeting. There's a couple of good 2-year-old races there. I could see him running in.
I'll definitely back him off a mark of around 75. I think that's kind of big.
Yeah.
I think he's an 80 plus horse, definitely. So
So yet another example, folks. If it's a quirky track, you've got to be more forgiving.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Well, we got a decent week's worth of trackers and obviously anti-post bets. We've been talking about that as well. So we've had a busy week.
Yeah. So you've got 5 to get in the tracker. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's going well. Got Goodwood today, and then actually I think it's a very strong week of racing. Very strong week.
And nice weekend ahead as well. Haydock as well. We've got
Haydock. The Group 1. We see the mighty Camacho sprinter, Shaquille.
Yes. Yeah, that's a shorty though. It might be one that I end up taking on again. I could just see one day that horse actually missing the break and not running like a freak. But
he's the sort of horse you could go skint.
We should see how they bet near at the time.
He's the sort of horse you could go skint trying to get beat because he's obviously a case. He misses the break. There's so many reasons to oppose him, and then you see that stride when he gets going. You think, oh dear, as he comes flying by. Yeah, but it's going to be great to see him and great for Moulton to have a genuine Group 1 champion again. That is a colt and could go on to be a stallion. That has not happened for a long time, sadly.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
So exciting week ahead.
Brilliant, mate.
absolutely. That'll keep you busy this week. So I wish you good luck, mate. And what do we say on this show?
Well, yes. Whether you're going on holiday or trying to back winners, we say one thing, Judge.
Yeah,
Be lucky.
be lucky. Yeah, absolutely.